We're to the letter L in our acronym fall. This is the TheIndieLot, and you're at the Filmmakers Boot Camp. We're up to the letter L in our acronym fall. In this module, we want to focus on lights. Lighting should be pretty obvious as to why it's important, because if our picture's too dark, then it'll be hard to see what's going on in the story. If you're like me, you've probably seen films where lots going on in the film, but it's so dark you can barely tell what's going on, and that's pretty frustrating. So we want to be able to light our scene so that the image can be seen and the story can be told, right, in a way that our viewer can see it and understand it. Now, again, we're also talking about filming on a budget, right? So just like everything we've talked about so far, gear, cameras, microphones, we could spend a lot of money on this stuff, or we could try to look for lesser expensive alternatives. And lighting is no different. So what is the least expensive lighting you could do? Well, if you don't have a budget right away to start with lights, again, don't let that be a reason that keeps you from shooting a film, but start thinking about stories or telling your story in a way where you can utilize a shoot on a set where you don't need light. And what better place could that happen than to shoot outdoors, right? During the daytime. Plenty of light during the day, and you don't have to have supplemental lighting. But if you start moving your set indoors, depending on the room, depending on the location in which you're shooting, you may still be able to get away without lights if you have a room with lots of windows, okay? And you have an environment where a lot of natural lighting is entering the room and lighting the set. And, or you might film closer to windows, that kind of thing. So you'll look for some ways to set up your story and set up your set so that you can utilize the natural light that's coming from outside. But then as you start growing as a filmmaker, you're going to end up in situations where you're going to need to shoot at night, or you're going to be in a location where there isn't windows, or maybe there's windows but not enough to really light your set adequately. And so you're going to need to start supplementing with lights, okay? So I just wanted to show you one of the solutions I use. Now there's a million different ways you can go with this and different cost points. The only thing I could think of that was feasible enough for me to spend money on at the time was these clamp lamps right here. And I purchased over time, and that's the other thing too. I didn't buy all this stuff all in one shot, right? Each new project that I took on, each new film, I let that be an excuse to add just a little more gear to my gear set. And so these lamps here, I have 7 of them. And I started off buying, I think 3 lamps when I first started, okay, because I was thinking of a 3-point lighting system, a key light, a fill light, and then a backlight. So. It's supposed to be stupid. Let me just see. And so I started off with 3 of these lamps, and then on the next project I added a couple more, and then the next project after that a couple more, to the point where I'm up to 7 lamps now. But these clamp lamps, I think I picked these up for maybe $12 to $13 a piece. I have 5 of them that are this size here, but then 2 of them are a little bigger, so they were a little bit more money. And then some of the additional things, because this isn't the only piece you're going to need. You're obviously going to need to get the light bulbs, and so I think I purchased a pack of bulbs for $10. These are daylight balance bulbs. They burn at about 5,500 Kelvin, which is a very white light. Okay, I also have bulbs that are much warmer. They burn at 3,200 Kelvin roughly, and they're much oranger and warmer types of lights. But I use these a lot. The other thing I like about these lights too is when I have them going all day long, and I've had them on set literally going for hours. If you need to change a light or you touch it, it's hot, but it doesn't burn you like the other other kind of light bulbs that get really hot, and you can actually injure yourself, or you sometimes could run the risk of fire. I'll talk a little bit about diffusion, but sometimes I cover these lamps, to kind of diffuse the light and disperse it. And so the other thing I like about that these don't get so hot is I don't have to worry so much about causing a fire. So you got your clamp lamp, you've got your light bulb. Okay, and you'll want to have spares. Another piece of equipment that you're going to want to think about, power strips. So, and then I also purchased through Amazon Prime, I purchased some light stands. I actually also built some light stands out of PVC pipe, and that's actually how I started. I built a bunch of PVC stands. But then as I started grouping my lamps together, I found this out on set. I started taking these lamps, and as I accumulated more and more, I started grouping them together in groups of 2 and 3, depending on what I was shooting, and that caused even stronger light to be cast into my scene. But as I started doing that and clamping these onto the PVC, then what started happening was the PVC was falling over. So I invested in not very expensive, but I bought a few actual light stands, and then I go ahead and I clamp these to the light stands. And I don't have a clamp right here with me to show you, but I also got a bunch of these real strong clamps. You just squeeze them and clamp them on. So when I attach this to the light stand, right, I'll attach it to the light stand and then I'll put a clamp on it. And you're going to want to invest in some clamps to support and help hold this to the light stand. Because what happens is if you don't, the weight of these could eventually cause it to slip and fall off the stand. And so you want to be able to lock that down with some stronger clamps. The other thing you need to think about is extension cords. Okay, so this stuff does start to add up, but believe me, this solution for a beginner anyways ends up, I think, being a lot less expensive than going a more professional lighting system. And again, I'm all for starting off very simple. That's how I started. And as my knowledge grew and my experience grew, and I began to understand more and more about what I wanted to do in my next project, that knowledge helped fuel my purchasing. I would say go with these less expensive routes to start, and then as you grow and the knowledge and the project warrants it, you can bump things up and go a little more. Now, let me just talk real quick here about diffusion. Okay, diffusion is where you put something in front of your light that disperses the light. So this light shining on your subject by itself is going to cast a very harsh light. All right, so what you could do is diffuse the light and cause it to spread out. And that also, if you don't diffuse the light, the shadows that fall across the face. So, for example, if the light's coming in this way and my nose is casting a shadow onto my face here, it's going to be very, very dark, very harsh. Diffusing light's going to help soften up the shadows, soften up the light, disperse the light, and in a sense, it will make your light source seem to spread out and be bigger and cast a wider dispersion of light. And what I use for that, just wax paper, okay? And so what I'll do is I'll rip off a sheet and I'll use it to cover my lamps. Here you can see some examples of how I diffuse the light. Here are the clamps that I use, and you can see here how they're clamped to this light stand. You see the power strip there and the extension cord. And I try to have a power strip and extension cord available for each light tree that I use. All right here in this sample, these lights are just, I have them grouped in 2s, but sometimes I've put them in 3s. Also for diffusion, I've also used a $2 shower curtain. I hope this kind of inspires you as to what, gives you an idea of what you might be able to do, but it doesn't have to cost a lot.